Cybernetic Horizon is very nearly here. The sneak peek is this weekend, and with it comes new Metaphys support in the form of two new cards. We have the new trap card Metaphys Ascension and the new pendulum monster Metaphys Decoy Dragon. And I don't know anyone who predicted that a pendulum would be added to the Metaphys theme. Nonetheless, we're getting one. But the real star of the show is the trap card Metaphys Ascension. So if you haven't seen this card yet, let's briefly look at it. So it has two effects. The first one is a discard a Metaphys card, draw a card, and then it lets you banish a Metaphys monster from your deck. If it were a continuous trap, it would be a little bit more interesting in that way. As it is, the first effect is basically just a way to get it either into the graveyard, or if you have Macrocosmos face up, a way to get it banished. And most of the time, it's just a way to get it in the graveyard. If for some reason you're not playing a way to banish it from your hand or your field, with, for example, Fairy Tale Snow, which if you're playing Metaphys, you should probably be playing Fairy Tale Snow. It's arguably the best card for the theme for a variety of reasons that I'll get into later. But the second effect of Metaphys Ascension is when this card is, or if this card is banished, you can add one Metaphys card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of Ascension. And of course, you'd only use one Metaphys effect per turn, and only once that turn. So if you do use the draw and discarding the Metaphys card and then banishing a Metaphys from the deck, you cannot then use the search effect, which sort of defeats the purpose of playing Metaphys Ascension, because we already have a themed banish and draw, and we're already playing cards like Gold Sarcophagus. We don't really need to just target banish random Metaphys monsters, especially on something that's as slow as a trap card. It's the search effect that draws the eyes and really helps Metaphys come into its own as a coherent strategy. And that's because this is a deck that has, until now, lacked a really reliable way to search its key cards, its key combo pieces. It did have one search effect, one quite terrible search effect, one very slow way to search the deck. That's through Metaphys Nephthys. So you can use Nephthys effect during your next standby phase after the turn if you banish it. And if you're playing first in the duel, that means you're waiting until the next standby phase. Excuse me. It's always during the next standby phase. I apologize if I say your standby phase. I get that stuck in my head. So you're always waiting until the next standby phase to get your search for Nephthys. Well, in a lot of cases, that's too late, especially when you want to search the themed trap card for the deck, Metaphys Dimension, which is a really good card. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the duel, you're not going to be able to search and set that card, because your themed searcher won't activate until your opponent's standby phase. That's way too long. That's a whole extra turn. That's an extra draw for your opponent to draw into an Ash Blossom to negate your Nephthys. Now, if you've got something like Dimensional Fissure on the board anyways, or Macrocosmos, you don't care about their hand traps, because they won't be able to send them to the graveyard to activate their effects, and therefore they're completely useless. But you still don't want to give them that extra turn, especially if you don't draw into your floodgates, and the slowness prevents you from setting up good boards. It prevents you from setting up combos. It increases your odds of bricking, because the search cards that should get you out of brick hands are too slow. Right? So slow, in fact, that you have to wait an entire turn. It's like attaching your search effects to trap cards. This isn't the days where the Nordic search card, the trap card that they have, is a viable option because, hey, it baits out Mystical Space Typhoon. That's a good play, right? The game is much too fast for that now. You need to be searching multiple times per turn at the beginning of the duel. And Metaphys didn't have that until now. So Metaphys Ascension lets you do that. And all you have to do is banish it. That's pretty easy. You can banish a copy with Gold Sarcophagus. You can put it in your graveyard, or have it in your hand, or have it on your field and banish it with Fairy Tale Snow. You can, of course, search Ascension through Metaphys, which is great, especially after the first copy. You can banish it off the top of the deck with Metaphys Ragnarok. You can banish it off the top of the deck with a mill effect while you have Macrocosmos face up on your board. You can banish it off the top of the deck with Necroface. So there are a lot of ways to trigger this effect in the first turn. But what's even better is that you can put it back in your graveyard to banish it again. And you can do that with Cyframe Lord Omega. And so during your opponent's standby phase, you can just put this card right back in your graveyard. And then banish it again on your turn with on their turn with Fairy Tale Snow. Or on your next turn, really doesn't matter. And get another search. So now that we have the ability to sort of rapidly grab Metaphys cards, that lets us set up our combos a little bit easier. It lets us dig for cards a little bit easier, and it makes something like Metaphys, the draw card, which I have no idea how to correctly pronounce other than the fact that it's a combination of asymmetry and Metaphys. So I don't know. I tend to sort of set to land on Metaphys, but it sounds a little strange. So now that you have a way to sort of get a large number of monsters to your hand, that card becomes a little bit better. But perhaps the biggest winner from Metaphys Ascension is the Trap card. And the Trap card has that effect where if you're banishing Metaphys cards that you control, that if you're banishing them either from the deck or out of your hand or off the field, or out of your graveyard even, you can banish cards your opponent controls as a targeted effect once per turn. It also has that special summon effect, which is handy. It doesn't trigger the bigger Metaphys monsters, which is how you would love to play the deck, right? You would love to have that trap card set, Metaphys Dimension set, flip it, your opponent special summons a monster, you special summon Daedalus, and you banish their board. That would be awesome. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like that. But you can still banish individual cards, especially if you're special summoning back a Metaphys Ragnarok, you hit an Ascension off of its effect, or you hit another Metaphys monster. You're getting your search, you're getting a targeted banish. It's really, really powerful, and it sort of creates a competitive strategy where one didn't exist before. Right? Metaphys wanted to play a strategy that was like Fire Kings with Metaphys Daedalus, but it just didn't happen. It's way too difficult to get your Metaphys Daedalus onto the field consistently. Its effect, while strictly better in a sense that it's better to banish than it is to destroy, especially right now, it's just way too hard. And the fact that it comes out immediately during the standby phase is a little bit of a pain. Because once it leaves the field again, you're going to need to banish it again. 'Cause a lot of the times your opponent's going to put it in the graveyard when they destroy it. Especially if they're careful about blowing out your back row. Again, cards like Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos, those are limited cards, and we can't always expect to see them. There's no really effective way to search them. And so, again, that's where a card like Fairy Tale Snow comes in handy. Not only just to trigger your trap card consistently, both trap cards, Ascension and Dimension, but also as further disruption, as a way to banish anything that lands in your graveyard, and to really capitalize on mill effects whenever you don't have a banish floodgate that's doing all the heavy lifting for you. So there's the appearance of a coherent strategy here, much more so than this deck when it came out in Circuit Break. And I liked this deck when it came out in Circuit Break. I thought it was cool. I thought, oh, this is really cool. It's like Fire Kings, but they banish cards. But it never really worked. There's a lot of talk about using the new Legendary Dragons with these cards, the sort of the things like the Judgment Dragon Synchro and the Trishula Fusion. And I've seen some videos on those. In my opinion, I think we have the tools right now to build this deck. There's a new Thunder level 4 that's coming out in Soul Fusion that you can special summon from your hand by banishing a light monster in your graveyard. I think we already have that card, or the necessary card to sort of perform that function with Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. In my opinion, we sort of already have a good way to banish our monsters out of the graveyard, both with that and with Fairy Tale Snow. And I'm not too concerned with like not having enough tech cards. The problem with the deck, as it stands post Ascension, is that Decoy Dragon's okay, but it's not amazing, and the fact that Dimension can't trigger the effect of Daedalus. That creates a bit of a problem in the sense that Daedalus only really activates when you can summon it via Tyrant Dragon and Ragnarok Dragon. And the problem is Ragnarok Dragon's not going to trigger its effect very often. Ragnarok Dragon's a cool card. It's a cool card that does a lot of cool things for the deck. It just isn't going to special summon a Metaphys monster from the deck that often. Realistically, there are way too many things that have to go right for that to happen, and you shouldn't expect it to happen. I don't expect it to happen when I play this deck. And that basically leaves Tyrant Dragon, and Tyrant Dragon's a little slow, right? It's not a super fast card. It's a little difficult to time when it's going to go through, which again is another great reason to play cards like Cyframe Omega, so that you can kind of plan on it and then get your monsters off the board, or Angel of Zero, where you don't care if your synchros get banished because they come right back. So we'll have to see if anyone enjoys playing Metaphys enough to try to take it to some serious competition. I think we will see people take it to serious competition, though. I think it's a lot of fun. I like the deck. I like cards like Metaphys Ragnarok in general. I think it's a really fun card. It's a really fun theme overall. It lets you play a bunch of cool mill cards, and it lets you play Necroface, which is always a lot of fun. Like you can deck people out with Necroface. It's a serious win condition, and people sleep on that. They're like, you're banishing 5 cards off the top of your opponent's deck becomes 10 cards as soon as you hit a second copy of Necroface, and then if you Cyframe Omega one of those Necrofaces back into your graveyard and banish it again, okay, that's 15 cards, right? If you're talking about like a 6-card opening hand, well, just say 5 just a round, right? You're talking like 20 cards. A Pot of Desires puts them at 30 cards banished, or 30 cards banished, or well, 25 cards banished, 5 cards opening hand, 6 cards opening hand, if they're going second. That's a lot of cards, right? That's not a lot of cards left in the deck. And if somehow you can miraculously get that 4th Necroface to effective resolve, you might be winning. You might be winning that duel real quick. And of course, you can win in time pretty easily. With a little life point gain tech. So let me know if you're planning on building Metaphys and what your build is kind of looking like, because I am trying to figure out my own build still. I have some ideas. I've written about this deck before, and I think it has a little bit of potential. I think it does. I think it needs maybe a couple of more cards, but the basics are there. The direction you sort of want to take it, I feel like it wants to be a deck that wins via Necroface deck out. I really do, which is a sort of a curious way to talk about this theme, but I feel like this is the deck that's going to get Necroface limited. I really do. I have a suspicion about it, but we'll see. So it's one of the cooler things to come out of Cybernetic Horizon. Of course, that's hitting shelves this week, or not shelves. Actually, the sneak peek is this weekend. and then I think it releases the weekend after. So let me know what you think. And of course, any criticism on this video is greatly appreciated. Thank you for listening, and until next time then.